The room fell silent. In the middle of her vows, with a trembling voice and a bouquet shaking in her hands, Clara froze. Her eyes weren't on her groom. They weren't on the priest. They were locked on the crowd, on a single woman sitting quietly in the second row, wearing a pale blue dress and a small silver locket around her neck. And in that moment, Clara knew the wedding couldn't go on. What was it about that locket that shattered her world in an instant? Why did the sight of it make her heart pound with fear instead of joy? No one else in the chapel could understand what they were witnessing, but Clara was about to reveal a secret that would leave the entire room in shock. Clara James was 28, a woman who had fought hard for every good thing in her life. She grew up in a small town where everyone knew everyone else's business. Her mother, a gentle woman who worked as a seamstress, raised her alone after her father disappeared when she was 7. The one thing Clara carried from him was a blurred memory, his rough laugh, the way he used to lift her high into the air, and the little silver locket he gave her before vanishing. That locket was the last link to him, but years ago, it had gone missing. Clara never found it. She told herself it didn't matter anymore, that life was moving forward. And today, in this chapel filled with the smell of roses and flickering candlelight, she was supposed to be stepping into a new life with the man she loved. Her fiancé, Daniel Cross, was everything she thought she wanted. Kind, steady, the sort of man who looked at her like she was the only person in the world. Their story was one of healing, of finding love after pain. And yet, as Clara looked out at the guests that Sunday morning, something shifted. At first, it was just a flicker of recognition. The silver glint caught her eye, and her breath hitched. She saw the locket, her locket, dangling from the neck of a woman she didn't recognize. Her palms grew clammy. She lost her place in her vows. Daniel leaned in, whispering, "It's okay, take your time." But his voice sounded far away, muffled by the sudden roar of questions inside her head. Who was that woman? And how could she possibly have Clara's locket? After the ceremony was paused and guests were shuffled into the reception hall for drinks, Clara pulled her maid of honor, Marcy, aside. "That necklace," she hissed, her voice trembling. "On the woman in blue. Did you see it?" Marcy frowned. "What necklace? Clara, are you okay? You looked like you saw a ghost." Clara's eyes darted back to the mysterious woman, who stood quietly near the back, sipping champagne, her eyes strangely fixed on Clara. The second conflict came when Clara finally approached Daniel about it. "I think I saw my locket," she whispered urgently. "The one from my father. She's wearing it." Daniel's brow furrowed. "Clara, that was years ago. Maybe it just looks similar. Don't let this ruin today." But Daniel's attempt at reassurance only made Clara feel more alone. The third moment came when Clara confronted the woman directly. Her voice shook as she asked, "Where did you get that necklace?" The woman smiled faintly. Her fingers brushed the locket as if it was something deeply personal. "This? It was a gift." "A gift from who?" Clara demanded. The woman's eyes glimmered with something between amusement and pity. "From someone who mattered. Someone we both knew." Clara's blood ran cold. Later, in the quiet of the bridal suite, Clara sat alone. Her dress pulled around her as she stared at her reflection. For years, she had carried unanswered questions about her father's disappearance. The late-night phone call her mother once received but never explained. The locked drawer her mother never let her open. She remembered the way her mother's eyes would flicker with pain whenever Clara asked too much. And now this stranger, with his locket, showing up on the most important day of her life. Clara felt something deep and unsettling. This was no coincidence. The breaking point came when Clara finally unclasped the locket from the woman's neck during a heated exchange in the reception hall. Gasps filled the air as Clara held it in her hand. She pressed it open with trembling fingers. Inside was a photograph, aged, faded, but unmistakable. Her father, alive, and in the picture, standing beside him, was the very woman who now stood before her. The woman's voice was calm but sharp as glass. "You shouldn't be marrying him, Clara," she whispered. "Not until you know the truth. Your father isn't who you think he is. And Daniel, your Daniel, is not the man you believe either." Clara staggered back, clutching the locket as though it were burning her hand. "What are you talking about?" she demanded, her voice breaking. The woman's eyes flickered toward Daniel, who was pushing through the crowd to reach them. "You need to ask him about the night your father disappeared," she said firmly. "Because he knows." The reception hall erupted into murmurs. Clara's heart pounded as Daniel reached her side, placing a hand on her arm. "Clara, stop this," he said firmly. "You're exhausted. She's trying to ruin our day." Clara yanked her arm free. "Tell me the truth, Daniel. What do you know about my father?" The room went deathly silent. Daniel's jaw tightened. His eyes, usually soft and steady, now flashed with something harder. "You don't want to do this here," he muttered. "I want the truth." Clara shouted. The mysterious woman leaned closer, her voice low but audible enough for the room to hear. "Daniel isn't just keeping secrets. He's been keeping your father." Gasps rippled through the guests. Clara's world tilted on its axis. She turned to Daniel, searching his face for denial, for reassurance, but he only lowered his gaze, silent. Her bouquet slipped from her fingers, crashing to the floor. The crowd's whispers rose like a storm as Clara's knees buckled. Her wedding day was no longer about love or celebration. It was about betrayal, secrets, and a truth she had been denied her entire life. And as Daniel finally raised his eyes to meet hers, his expression carried only one message. This was just the beginning. The reception hall was chaos. Guests whispered in frantic tones, cameras were lowered, and Clara stood frozen in her gown with the silver locket clenched in her fist. The woman in blue had dropped her bombshell, and now every eye was on Daniel. He didn't speak. He didn't deny. He only stood there, jaw tight, eyes darting between Clara and the stranger. And that silence was more terrifying than any answer. Clara stumbled backward, her vision swimming. Her maid of honor, Marcy, tried to steady her, but Clara shook her off. "Daniel," she demanded, voice cracking, "where is my father?" His lips parted, but the stranger cut in first. "He's alive," the woman said sharply. "And if you want to see him, you need to leave now." The crowd gasped again. Clara's mother, pale as a ghost, gripped the back of a chair for support. She whispered under her breath, "Oh God, it's happening." Clara's head snapped toward her. It's happening? Her own mother knew something. After the guests were ushered out, Clara cornered her mother in the bridal suite. "Tell me the truth," she pleaded. "Did you know he's alive?" Her mother's hands trembled as she tried to fix Clara's veil. "I wanted to protect you." "Protect me from what?" Clara demanded. Her mother hesitated, then whispered, "From the deal your father made. From the people he crossed." Clara's heart sank. "And Daniel?" Her mother's eyes glistened. "Daniel is connected to them. That's why I begged you not to rush this wedding." The door creaked open. Daniel stood there, his expression dark, his tie loosened, his hair disheveled as though he had been pacing. "Enough," he said. His voice was low, sharp. "Clara, come with me. We need to leave before she drags you deeper into this." Clara shook her head, clutching the locket. You knew my father was alive. Why didn't you tell me?" Daniel's jaw worked, but he didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached for her hand. Because it's not that simple. If you knew where he was, you'd never forgive him. Hours later, Clara found herself in a dimly lit cafe across town. She hadn't planned it. She'd simply followed the woman in blue when Daniel stormed out. The stranger finally introduced herself. "My name is Evelyn," she said. "And your father, he's not the man you remember." Clara's hands shook as she held the locket. "Then who is he?" Evelyn leaned in. "He's been hiding under a different name. He's alive because people believe he's dead. But Daniel knows where to find him. He always has." Clara's chest tightened. All the years of unanswered questions suddenly pressed down on her. And then Evelyn slid something across the table. A folded photograph. Clara opened it with trembling fingers, and there he was. Her father. Older, grayer, standing outside what looked like a secluded cabin in the woods. That night, Clara confronted Daniel again. "I saw him," she said, holding up the photograph. "Evelyn showed me. He's alive, Daniel. He's been alive this whole time." Daniel's face went pale. "You shouldn't have met her." "Why?" Clara shot back. "Because she told me the truth." Daniel's fists clenched. He leaned close, his voice urgent. "Clara, if you go looking for him, you'll destroy everything. You don't know what he did. You don't know why he left." Clara stared at him, tears brimming in her eyes. "Then tell me why." But Daniel only shook his head. "Not tonight. Not here. It's too dangerous." The next morning, Clara received an unmarked envelope slid under her hotel room door. Inside was a single note written in blocky handwriting. "If you want to see your father, come alone. Midnight. The cabin on Route 17. Clara's heart pounded. She glanced at the photograph Evelyn had given her. Yes, the same cabin. She didn't tell Daniel. She didn't tell her mother. She only slipped the locket around her neck and drove into the night. The forest was silent when she arrived, her headlights cutting through the mist. The cabin looked abandoned, its wooden walls weathered, one window faintly glowing with light. Her hands trembled as she pushed the door open. Inside, the air smelled of pine and smoke. Papers littered the table. Maps, red string connecting photos. It was like stepping into someone's secret war room. And then, she heard a voice. "Clara." She froze. A man stepped into the light. His hair was gray, his face lined with age, but his eyes, they were unmistakable. Her father. Tears burned her eyes as she whispered, "It's really you." He nodded slowly, almost cautiously. "I never wanted you to find me. Not like this." Clara stumbled forward, her voice breaking. "Why? Why did you leave us?" His eyes darkened. "Because if I hadn't, you'd be dead too." Clara's heart hammered. "What do you mean?" Before he could answer, heavy footsteps echoed outside the cabin. Her father's face went pale. He rushed to the window, peering out into the trees. "They found me," he muttered. Clara's pulse spiked. "Who?" Her father grabbed her by the shoulders, his grip firm and trembling. "You need to leave. Now." But the door suddenly burst open, and Daniel stepped inside. Clara's chest tightened, her world spinning. Daniel's eyes locked on hers, then shifted to her father. "Clara," Daniel said coldly, "you shouldn't have come here." Her father moved in front of her, shielding her. "Don't touch her," he growled. Daniel's lips curved into something between regret and determination. "You don't understand. This is bigger than all of us. And now she knows too much." Clara's breath caught. "Daniel, what are you going to do?" Daniel slowly reached into his jacket. Her father tensed, ready to fight. Clara's voice cracked as she whispered, "Daniel, please don't." But his hand emerged, holding not a weapon, but a folded document. He tossed it onto the table between them. "You need to read this," he said, his voice low, "because once you do, you'll never see me the same way again." Clara's hands trembled as she reached for the paper, her father's eyes burning with warning. And just before she opened it, glass shattered. A masked figure stormed through the window, moving with terrifying precision. Daniel swore under his breath. Clara screamed, and everything went black. Glass rained down like shards of ice. Clara's scream cut through the cabin as the masked figure landed heavily on the wooden floor, boots thudding, hydraulics hissing faintly. The eerie blue slit in its helmet glowed as it straightened to full height, towering, deliberate, unstoppable. Her father shoved her behind him, his voice raw. "Run!" But Clara's legs wouldn't move. Daniel stepped forward, shock flashing across his face. No, this wasn't supposed to happen tonight. The intruder advanced, silent but purposeful. Papers scattered as wind whipped through the shattered window. Clara clung to the table edge. "Who is that?" she gasped. Her father's voice was tight, urgent. "The reason I disappeared." Daniel cursed under his breath, yanking the folded document back from the table. "If you want her alive, we need to leave. Now." Clara's mind spun. Leave with Daniel, trust her father, or face the faceless intruder. The masked figure tilted its head toward her, like it was scanning, memorizing. Then it spoke for the first time, its voice distorted, mechanical, chilling. "Target acquired." Her father grabbed Clara's wrist, dragging her toward the back door. "There's a tunnel, hurry." Daniel moved in front of them, blocking the way. "If you take her underground, she won't survive it. They'll trap you both." Clara's voice cracked. "Then what's the plan, Daniel? Who are you really working for?" Daniel's jaw tightened. For a moment, it looked like he might confess, but the masked figure lunged. Her father shoved Daniel aside, hurling a chair at the intruder. "Go, Clara." They sprinted down a narrow hallway as the cabin shook with heavy footsteps behind them. The sound of splintering would followed, each slam closer than the last. The hallway led to a trapdoor beneath the floorboards. Her father yanked it open, revealing a steep, dirt-carved tunnel lit by old kerosene lamps. The smell of damp earth filled Clara's lungs as they descended, her gown snagging on roots and stone. Above them, Daniel's voice echoed faintly. "Clara, don't trust him. Don't trust anyone." Her father pulled her deeper into the darkness. "Don't listen to him. He's part of them." Clara's mind raced. Who's lying? Who's protecting me? The tunnel seemed endless, stretching like a vein through the earth, every step muffled, every flickering lamp casting their shadows tall and trembling. Finally, the tunnel opened into a cavernous underground chamber. Clara's eyes widened. Maps covered the walls, photographs strung together with red thread, stacks of crates labeled with codes and symbols. "This is my life now," her father said bitterly. "Running, hiding, preparing." Clara touched one of the photos. It was Daniel, but not in a suit, not at their engagement party. Instead, he wore tactical gear, standing beside strangers with cold, hard eyes. Her stomach twisted. "You were right," she whispered. "He's been lying to me all along." Her father's gaze was grim. "And if he followed us, it means he hasn't chosen you. He's chosen them." Before Clara could respond, a metallic clang echoed down the tunnel. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Her father's face paled. "He's coming." Clara's pulse roared in her ears. "But you said the tunnel." "He'll find us no matter where we go," her father snapped. "That thing doesn't stop." The masked figure's voice rang out from the shadows. "Return the girl, or both of you die." Her father gripped her shoulders, his voice shaking now. "Clara, I have to tell you something before he gets here." Clara's breath caught. "What?" His eyes burned with regret. "The reason Daniel came into your life, the reason he chose you, was because I asked him to." Clara's stomach dropped. "You what?" "I told him to protect you, to watch you from a distance, to keep you safe until it was time to come back. But somewhere along the way, he fell in love with you." Clara staggered back, her world spinning. "You mean my entire relationship, my entire life with him, was part of your plan?" Her father nodded. "Yes, and now it's falling apart." The masked figure emerged from the tunnel entrance, ducking into the chamber. Its presence consumed the space, the blue slit glowing like a predator's eye. Clara screamed, backing into the wall. Her father pulled a weapon from one of the crates, an old revolver, and aimed. "Stay back," he shouted. But the figure didn't stop. It advanced step by step, each one like a drumbeat. Daniel suddenly appeared from the tunnel behind it. Blood streaked across his forehead. "Clara," he yelled, "don't let him fool you. He's not your savior. He's the reason this thing exists." Her father snapped his aim toward Daniel. "Shut up." Clara's heart nearly exploded. Both men stood at odds, the masked figure between them, the chamber thick with the smell of earth and kerosene. And she was in the middle. The masked figure raised its gauntleted hand, hydraulics hissing. For a split second, Clara thought it would strike. But instead, its distorted voice cut through the chamber. "Orders received. Secure the girl. Terminate the rest." Daniel lunged for Clara, her father fired, and the chamber erupted in chaos, gunshots echoing, sparks flying as the bullet ricocheted off the figure's armor. Clara was thrown to the ground, her gown tearing, her fingers scraping against the dirt. She clawed for the locket at her neck, gripping it like a lifeline. Through the chaos, the masked figure seized Clara by the arm and yanked her upward. Its grip was iron, unbreakable. Her father shouted her name. Daniel reached for her, but the figure pulled her toward the tunnel. Its voice rumbled low, final. "She belongs to us." Clara's scream echoed through the chamber as she was dragged into the darkness. Her father and Daniel left behind in the flickering lamplight, powerless. And in that moment, Clara realized the most terrifying truth yet. This was never about her wedding. It was about her bloodline. The tunnel walls scraped against Clara's arms as she was dragged deeper into the earth. Her screams bounced off the stone, but the masked figure didn't falter. Its grip was unyielding, mechanical, like she was nothing more than cargo. The hiss of hydraulics filled her ears with every step. Behind them, gunshots and shouting still echoed in the cavern. Her father's voice, Daniel's, both fading, and Clara's heart shattered at one thought. What if she never saw either of them again? The tunnel opened into a steel door embedded in rock. The figure punched a code into a panel, and the door slid open with a hiss of compressed air. Clara gasped. Inside was a vast underground chamber, lit by harsh fluorescent lights. The air reeked of oil and chemicals. Giant glass tanks lined the walls, each filled with a strange liquid that glowed faintly blue. And inside those tanks, figures. Human figures. Suspended. Unmoving. Her breath caught. "Oh my God!" The masked figure shoved her forward. Subject delivered. Clara stumbled, her gown soaked at the hem, her eyes darting to the tanks. Each one held a face. Men and women, some her age, some younger. All pale, All still. One tank made her freeze entirely. The face looked like hers. Footsteps echoed on a metal catwalk above. A man descended the stairs slowly, his polished shoes clicking with authority. He was tall, silver-haired, dressed in a tailored suit that didn't belong in this grim place. His piercing blue eyes locked onto Clara with unsettling calm. "Finally," he said smoothly, "the missing piece." Clara's voice cracked. "Who are you?" He smiled faintly. "Gareth Holloway. But you may know me better by another name. The man your father betrayed." Her chest tightened. "What do you want from me?" His gaze flickered to the locket at her neck. "What I've always wanted. The truth sealed inside your bloodline." Two guards in dark uniforms restrained her, pinning her arms. Gareth circled her slowly, his cologne sharp, his words deliberate. "Your father thought he could destroy us by hiding. But he forgot one thing. Legacy cannot be erased. Not when it's encoded in you." Clara shook her head furiously. "I don't understand." "You will," Gareth murmured. His hand brushed her cheek with cold precision. "You are the key to the next generation. A blueprint written long before you were born." Clara's stomach churned. Around her, the pale, floating figures in the tanks seemed to mock her terror. Suddenly, one of the tanks hissed. Bubbles swirled inside, and the figure's eyes opened. Clara's heart stopped. It was her. An identical copy. Blonde hair floating in the liquid, hazel eyes staring blankly, face expressionless. Clara screamed, thrashing against the guards. "What have you done?" Gareth only smiled. "Insurance. In case your father never delivered you. We've been perfecting meanwhile, above ground." Her father and Daniel were locked in uneasy alliance. The masked figure had taken Clara, and the tunnel's collapse blocked their path. Daniel wiped blood from his forehead. "We can't waste time arguing. They'll take her straight to the facility." Her father's hands shook as he reloaded his revolver. "You did this. You led them to her." Daniel's eyes burned. "And now I'm the only chance you have of getting her back." A long silence. Finally, her father nodded, reluctant but desperate. Together, they descended into the woods, toward a hidden hatch Daniel swore led straight into Holloway's underground base. Back in the facility, Clara was strapped to a steel chair under glaring lights. The locket was ripped from her neck, placed carefully into Gareth's gloved hand. He opened it. Inside was the faded photograph of her father and Evelyn. But hidden beneath the photograph was something Clara had never noticed before. Tiny etched markings, almost like a code. Gareth's eyes lit up. At last! Clara fought against her restraints. "Why me? Why this?" His cold blue gaze met hers. "Because your father wasn't just running from me. He was running from what he created." The words chilled her to the bone. Suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights strobed across the chamber. A voice over the intercom, an authorized breach in Sector 4. Her heart leapt. "Father, Daniel." Gareth's calm expression hardened. "He's more persistent than I gave him credit for." He signaled the masked figure. "End them." The figure turned and marched out, leaving Clara strapped down, Gareth looming. "You'll watch them die," Gareth said coldly. "And then you'll take your place where you belong." From the tunnels beyond, the sound of gunfire erupted. Shouts. The rumble of collapsing steel. Clara's chest heaved. Tears blurred her vision as she pulled desperately against the restraints. And then, footsteps. Fast. Frantic. The door burst open. Her father staggered in, weapon raised, Daniel right behind him. Both blooded, both gasping for breath. "Clara!" her father shouted. Relief and terror flooded her at once. But before he could reach her, Gareth calmly pressed a switch on the control panel. With a deafening hiss, the tanks around the room began to drain. Liquid poured out, flooding the floor. One by one, the pale, lifeless copies of Clara began to stir, eyes snapping open, movements twitching into life. Clara's scream cut through the chamber. Her father froze in horror. Daniel raised his weapon. Gareth only smiled. "You wanted her back," Gareth said coolly. "Then face all of her." And as the first clone stepped out of the shattered glass, its hazel eyes fixed on Clara with chilling precision. The lights went out. Darkness swallowed the chamber. For a heartbeat, there was only the sound of rushing water as the tanks emptied, liquid splashing across the steel floor. Then, movement. Soft footsteps, uneven breathing. Clara strained against her restraints, her chest heaving. "Dad! Daniel! Where are you?" A flashlight flicked on. Her father's face appeared in the narrow beam, pale with fear. "I'm here. Hold on, Clara." But then, just beyond the circle of light, came the echo of footsteps. Dozens of them. When the backup generators hummed to life, the room was bathed in dim red light. Clara gasped. They were everywhere. Figures stepping out of shattered tanks, their pale skin dripping with blue liquid, their movements jerky but growing steadier with each step. And each one wore her face. Clara's voice cracked. "No, this isn't real. This can't be real." Her father raised his revolver with shaking hands. "It's real, Clara. It's what Holloway wanted all along." Daniel gritted his teeth, chambering around. "And if we don't move fast, it's the last thing we'll ever see." The clones moved in unison, heads tilting, eyes blank yet focused directly on Clara. One lunged first, fast, unnaturally fast. Daniel fired, the shot echoing like thunder. The clone dropped, twitching, but two more were already sprinting forward. Her father pulled the trigger, dropping another, but his revolver clicked empty almost instantly. "Out!" he shouted, tossing the useless gun aside. Clara screamed as a clone's hand clamped around Daniel's arm, its grip inhumanly strong. He snarled, slamming his knife into its throat, shoving it back. But for every one that fell, two more stepped forward. Above them, Gareth Holloway watched from the catwalk, arms folded behind his back. His expression was cool, calculated, like a man admiring his masterpiece. "You see," he called down over the chaos. "You can't stop this. She isn't just one woman, she's a design. A perfect vessel, replicated endlessly. She belongs to me now." Clara thrashed against the restraints, her voice breaking. "I'm not yours. I'm not." But her words were drowned by the shrieks of the clones as they charged again. Her father and Daniel backed toward her chair, fighting desperately. Daniel's knife dripped blue fluid, his chest heaving. "We can't hold them off much longer." Clara's father grabbed a fallen clone's weapon, his voice raw. "Then we end this at the source." His eyes locked on Clara. She froze. "What do you mean?" His voice cracked. "You don't understand. You weren't supposed to survive. You weren't supposed to exist. You're not just my daughter, you're their prototype." Clara's stomach dropped. "No, no, you're lying." Daniel swore under his breath. "Not the time, John." One clone leapt onto her father's back, clawing at him. He slammed it against the wall, teeth gritted in pain. Daniel spun toward Clara, fumbling with her restraints. "We need to move, now." The locks finally gave way, and Clara stumbled free, her legs trembling. Her father shoved her toward the far side of the chamber. "There's an exit hatch. Go." Clara hesitated, glancing at the rows of clones advancing. But what about? Run, he roared. The three sprinted down a metal corridor, alarms still blaring, red lights flashing overhead. Clara's heart pounded in her chest, her wedding gown shredded and soaked. Behind them, dozens of footsteps echoed, relentless. The clones were chasing. They turned a corner, only to find another steel door sealed shut. Daniel slammed his fist against it. Locked! Her father snarled, searching the wall for an override. Stall them! Clara pressed her back against the cold steel, her breath ragged, her mind reeling with her father's words. Prototype. The clones poured into the hallway. Daniel fired, mowing them down, but more kept coming. Her father finally tore open a panel, yanking wires. Sparks flew. The door hissed open an inch, then stalled. Go! He shouted. Clara squeezed through. She hesitated, staring at him. Not without you. He shoved her forward, voice raw. You don't understand. I can't leave. This facility was built on me. I'm the original design. You're the copy. Clara's blood turned to ice. I'm what? But before he could explain, the clones surged forward, and Daniel yanked her through the narrow gap, the door slamming shut between them. Her father's shouts echoed as the corridor filled with chaos. Clara collapsed against the cold wall on the other side, sobbing, pounding the steel with her fists. Dad! Daniel pulled her away, his voice sharp. We can't stop now. If we do, none of this will matter. Tears blurred her vision, her heart breaking under the weight of everything she'd just heard. Prototype, copy, was her entire life a lie? And yet, the locket was gone. Taken. Holloway still had it. Clara's voice was a whisper. I need answers, and I'll tear this place apart until I get them. Daniel opened another hatch, leading into an even deeper tunnel. The air grew colder, thicker, as they descended. But when the tunnel widened into a cavern, Clara stopped dead in her tracks. There were more tanks, hundreds of them, and inside each one was her face, but not pale and lifeless. These versions were awake, watching, waiting. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark, and as the tanks began to release with a deafening hiss, Clara's hand flew to her mouth. This wasn't just an experiment. It was an army. Watch out for part 2.
Every crime hides more than it reveals, and you don't want to miss what comes next. So before you go, subscribe now, like this video, and click the bell, because the next case might just hold the answer to the one you can't stop thinking about. Join the investigation. Join us behind the crime.